Hello,
Hello.
and welcome to Dead Curious. My name is Roxanne,
And I'm Jessica.
and you are listening to our podcast about spooky stuff. So, I wanted to start off before we get into the stories. There's a little bit of admin I wanted to attend to. All good stuff, all good stuff. Apparently, our mother has made peace with the fact that we will be making a t-shirt at some point that says kids are dicks. She says she doesn't like it, but she accepts that this is the days that we are in. So,
Did she tell you that like in person? I mean, not in person, obviously, like actually tell you that over the phone?
I have a voice note. So that is a word from our mother. Then we've got our first message.
Oh,
So we are
what does it say?
Okay, we are available on Anchor, and it was through the Anchor website or the Anchor app that we received this message, and it's from Kevin, who's actually a friend of mine who listens to the show. Hee hee.
Hi,
So
Kevin.
he says, "Hey there, Kev here. Great podcast so far. I think I'm really going to enjoy it as I love taboo stuff. Great idea to start off local as well. Smiley face. After listening to your first episode, I've just been downstairs to check that the doors and gates are locked because, just in case."
Oh, Kevin. Thank you,
I
Kevin.
know, isn't it sweet? And then, um, apparently, Mother didn't realize that we have bloopers at the end of each episode. So, guys, in case you weren't aware, if you listen through the outro song, we do actually include all our bloopers because there are so many. And if we cannot laugh at ourselves, then what is life all about?
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up because she told me the exact same thing. She said that in our next episode, I have to mention that people need to listen to the bloopers because she really enjoys them.
So it
And a couple of
has,
my friends who listen to the podcast say that they enjoy those bloopers very much. So please, please listen all the way to the end.
yeah,
It's a
if you,
very nice way to get rid of all the spooky jitters
it,
at the end of the episode.
we decided actually to include it. A lot of podcasts that cover spooky things like we do don't include things like that, but we wanted to because some of the stories that we have and are going to cover are just real downers. And we wanted to narrate and tell a story in a way that ended off on a lighter note, but we wanted to still stay true to the narrative. So, yeah, guys, if you thought the episode was particularly hectic or if you just want to pick me up, go listen to those bloopers. There's something to look forward to. We are available on Patreon. It's Patreon/Dead Curious. And please, guys, follow us on social media. We have an Instagram, which we are fairly active on. We have a Facebook because Facebook is still around apparently, so we do have that. So yeah, we would love the support. And if you want to contact us, we are looking for like first-hand ghost stories, first-hand encounter or listener stories. If you do have a story like that and you don't mind us sharing it on our podcast, please email your story to us at deadcuriouspod@gmail.com. That's deadcuriouspod for podcast @gmail.com. All lowercase, all one word. We would love to hear from you.
Absolutely. And I think that is an episode I'm definitely looking forward to recording one day.
Yes.
I I love hearing about personal ghost stories, not just myths and legends from different countries. There's something really special about hearing a personal encounter, and it's
The
just,
first hand account. It means something.
yeah, it's so much more spookier than just reading something off the internet. So please, please send any encounter that you have so that
And
we can share it with our listeners.
yes, please. And we will be in a future episode sharing some of our encounters and some of our family encounters. So another little sneak peek into the future episodes of Dead Curious.
Yes, so look forward to that as well.
So, today we are covering creatures of
Um,
legend.
what are we
So,
calling them? Cryptids?
okay, actually, I do think that this is maybe worth discussing because I wasn't 100% sure either. For those people out there that don't know, um, cryptids is a classification of creatures that cannot be explained. And it usually encompasses things like, well, the most famous one would be Bigfoot, but there's also
Hmm.
like Mothman, the Yeti, which I think is Bigfoot. Um, so my story, I feel like, sort of touches on that, but your story, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, I wasn't sure how to classify this episode, but they are both creatures in South African legends. So I went with Creatures of Legend.
Yeah, I mean, people usually group the two together, like they say myths and legends. So I think they're kind of along the same line, but I get what you're saying. Yours is more of like,
A cryptid.
I don't know, an actual cryptid, like something people are more familiar with, where mine is probably more along the lines of a myth.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we can call these cryptids, South African cryptids. It's not really a term I think South Africans are used to, but it is a
Mm,
term widely used in the paranormal community.
okay.
Okay, so before I go into my story, I just need to give a little bit of background as to the area that this creature exists in. So, this creature lives in the Karoo, which is a semi-desert natural region of South Africa, which is defined by low rainfall, arid air, cloudless skies, and extremely hot and cold temperatures. Your typical desert, really. But just outside the little town of De Rust, between the Little and Great Karoo, is the famous Maringspoort Canyon. And according to legend, the Maringspoort waterfall and surrounding rock pools are home to a beautiful dark-haired mermaid. That's right, a mermaid in the desert, y'all.
I love mermaids.
Okay, I love mermaids too, which is why I was so excited that there is one in South Africa. So yeah, there is apparently a mermaid that dwells in our desert. Now, many residents have reported seeing a mysterious woman with blue or red eyes and a fish tail. She lounges beside the deep mountain pools, combing her long black hair, just like in the movies, before just disappearing into the water. So, the story of the mermaid has been part of oral tradition in the area for generations. This mermaid, although quite shy, is also mischievous and is said to steal clothes from those who go swimming in her pools. But not all the tales
Mm.
of the beautiful mermaid are so charming. The first recorded story of the mermaid was in 1875 by Mr. D. Ballot, a farmer from Mullins River, who recorded a story that was told to him by an elderly bushman. So, for people outside of South Africa, bushman is sort of like another term for San, and the San people were a tribe. I think they're extinct now. They were Karoo people. They were people of the Karoo. But yeah, they're basically an indigenous tribe that have gone extinct, which is really sad. Anyway, the bushman told him of an ancient spirit that lived under the water that liked to take the form of either a woman or an animal. She would grab passers-by and drag them into the watery abyss, drowning them. So this is where the Disney Princess Mermaid sort of falls apart a little bit. But apparently, and this I found quite interesting, because before I researched this, I actually had never heard about mermaids in South Africa. Like, you know, I've heard about
Mm.
mermaids out in the deep sea where people are recording things and stuff, but I didn't consider that it's maybe something that was so close to home, and especially not something that's in the desert. But anyway,
Hmm.
South Africa is not the only African country to have experienced mischievous mermaids. In 2012, workers installing water pumps at a dam near the small town of Gokwe in northern Zimbabwe complained of being harassed by mermaids. So much so that the work on the dam had to come to a stop. The government tried replacing them with white workers, believing that they would be less superstitious than the locals in the area. However, after diving at the site, they too claimed to see mermaids and refused to continue work there. Eventually, the skeptical water ministry gave in and hired traditional healers to conduct a ritual ceremony in which they slaughtered cattle and brewed beer to appease the water spirits. And apparently, this worked, and they were able to complete the work on the dam without issue. So, y'all, if
Wow.
if you're experiencing mermaid issues, slaughter yourself a cow and make some beer.
The power of alcohol, man.
And if that's not enough to convince you of mermaids, in the driest parts of the Karoo, sand rock paintings depicting mermaid-like creatures have been found. So
Oh.
there are cave paintings in the middle of our desert with mermaids all over them. Now, skeptics argue that the sand paintings are representations of rituals, which were conducted by the shamans to ask for relief from drought. And the so-called mermaids were actually maybe swallows, like the bird, as they were
Hmm.
associated with rain. Others suggest
Oh.
Others suggest that the story of the Karoo mermaid is simply a variation of Western mermaid mythology that infiltrated African culture and was told as a cautionary tale to protect the local children. Because, as we know, across the world and across all cultures, mermaids have often been seen as a warning to sailors to forego temptation. And stories of mermaids drowning young children in deep, bottomless ponds is sure to ensure that kids would resist temptation and stay away from dangerous waters. However, the Sand People were well known for depicting exactly what they saw and not for doing visual interpretations, implying that these were actual creatures encountered and recorded by the Sand People. And I had a look
Hmm.
at a couple of these cave paintings myself. I Googled the hell out of them. And the mermaid swallow things in the paintings, it actually shows them holding stuff in their hands. So they look more like arms. They don't really look like wings. They seem very
Hmm.
unbird-like to me. So yeah, there's an argument out there that no, it's not mermaids, it's actually swallows because they saw these things as representation of rain or whatever. But that was just not in their culture. It wasn't in their culture to um, visually depict beliefs. They like to record experiences. So I'll share the photos, and you guys must let us know what you think. But when I told this story to Jax, well, I didn't tell the story to him. I was dumb and I accidentally left all of my research up and open on his laptop when I used it because I'm not used to using his computer when I research, but I was in bed because I wasn't feeling well. I left everything there and he's like, mermaids in the desert. He's like, that's BS, right? Well, this actually might not be as far-fetched as it sounds. You see, 250 million years ago, the Klein Karoo wasn't desert at all, but rather an entire world that existed completely underwater. In fact, the Karoo is known to have very well preserved fossils of shells and other ecosystems that thrived there hundreds and millions of years ago. Receding water is what left us with the Karoo as it is today. So, perhaps the mermaid of the Karoo is a remnant of this bygone aquatic era. And there might even be more evidence to support this. Until recently, there was no physical evidence to prove the existence of mermaids at all. I mean, besides video footage, but no one really believes that. However, in 2014, at Shelley Point, which is just off the west coast of South Africa, a group of locals were just spending a day at the beach when they stumbled across a fossil that was left partly exposed due to sand erosion. Top archaeologists from across the country were then called to the site, and they began a very careful excavation. There they found the remains of not one but several mermaids. Dr. Ross Margot, one of the first archaeologists called to the site, said that they found seven or eight specimens of a new species in pristine condition. They were, in fact, fossils of aquatic humanoids, but they weren't all of one species. There was a couple variation of species that they found there. He said, and I quote, "We don't know how human they are," and that they were investigating it as an animal and not as a hybrid or half-human species. But he did confirm that these creatures did in fact have uniquely human-like spines, skulls, hands, arms, and a few of the specimens even had human-like hair. So, mermaids,
Ooh.
animals, or cryptids, or something else entirely? You decide, and you let us know.
Um, okay, so I just want to bring up, I don't know if you could call it a controversial thing, but do you remember that mermaid thing
Oh,
that they had on like
the
Discovery Channel or
mermaid,
History
the
Channel, whatever it was?
mockumentary. Yes.
Okay, now, since you said some of them have like
Mm.
human-like hair, I just wanted to bring that up because I don't see like, okay, obviously we don't know because we don't know like what kind of environment they live in, but I don't really see the purpose of mermaids
Exactly.
having actual human hair. I feel like although that documentary was complete rubbish, I feel like that is more realistic. It's like that's what they would look like
Oh,
in my
the
opinion.
remains that
You
they
know,
the remains that
I
they
don't see why they need
found,
hair.
it's not of a beautiful half woman, half fish. And it mustn't be seen as like a human hybrid. It's not half human. It's not part human. It's something completely different. Um, that Dr. Ross Margot said something quite interesting in the interview with him. He was like, look at apes. Apes, especially from a fossil point of view,
Mm,
exhibit very human-like features, but there are fundamental differences that separate humans from apes. So this would be, we would have to look at it like that. What they found would have to be seen like that. It's like
mm,
they the big thing about this discovery and why it rocked the scientific world is that it was a new species that they were identifying. So obviously media and everyone got really excited because it's mermaids. And in many ways, yeah, it's a mermaid in that
mm.
it's like a fish person, but it might be a bit more like a fish monkey. And I mean, I'm not saying it
Uh,
is a aquatic ape, but what I'm saying is it's a completely different species to us and to apes, but we might share very similar features. And also, these are
yeah.
just fossils. There's no saying that these things had any intelligence above that of an average sea mammal or fish, you know. There might be a sea creature that has human-like features, but I definitely do think that it sounds like there's some sort of
Mm,
cryptid or at least spirit type thing that dwells in pools. Because if you'll notice,
yeah.
in Zimbabwe and in Karoo, those mermaids stayed in pools and dams, deep, still bodies of water, where the one found in Shelley Point and the ones that were
Mm-hmm.
that whole mermaid documentary or mockumentary that you brought up, the controversy that surrounds that thing, for those that don't know,
Yeah.
is that this thing was publicized heavily as like a documentary about mermaids and the proof thereof. The video that inspired that thing, that entire documentary, was a video taken off the coast of Greenland. I think it was it no, Greenland or no, actually, I think it was off the Antarctic. In a submarine, they were taking deep sea photos, and something had made contact with the submarine. Like it swam by, and there's a video of this thing swimming by and touching it. And the fin had hand like features. And that's sort of what sparked the whole documentary. But the whole thing was such a load of rubbish that anything, even the video itself, is like now being discredited. Like no one takes it seriously. So yeah, and I will be honest, I believed in mermaids before I saw that documentary. I saw that documentary. I was like, what a load of rubbish.
Mm.
And in researching mermaids in the desert, I've kind of got a new understanding maybe and a new appreciation for mermaids. And I'm willing to sit on the fence on this one actually.
Mm. I'm going to not sit on the fence. I'm going to say that I believe that they could actually very well be true, because I was talking to a friend of mine, I think sometime last week, about how such a tiny percentage of the
Oh
ocean
yeah,
has actually been explored. And like the deeper you go, the more bizarre and unusual
100%.
creatures you find. And I was saying there is absolutely no way that you can
Exactly.
convince me that it's not possible for mermaids or a similar type of creature to be living or hiding that deep. Um, so I'm gonna say I believe that they
100%.
are a real
No,
thing.
I
And
agree with you there. They say,
what?
I'm not 100% sure if it's true, but they say that we've actually explored more of outer space than we have our deepest oceans. Because the weight and the pressure of the water, the deeper you go, we just
Yeah,
haven't actually, it's from a technological point of view, it's easier to explore space than it is to actually go down to the deepest point of the ocean. It's mad. And there's nothing
yeah,
creepier than those little things that you find at the bottom of the ocean, like those king crabs, the ones that people love to eat. Oh my word, talking about it now gives me
yeah.
goosebumps. Those, I have like a fear for those things. They're so creepy with their little arms and the little pincers at the end of the long arms. Blah.
I was thinking about what you said about like different species and stuff. In the show, of course, they presented as
Mm.
being more human-like, but their skin kind of looked a bit like, I guess you could say shark skin or
Oh yeah,
something. You know, like they looked
yeah.
like actual sea creatures. And of course, there was no human hair or anything like that. So I think if you're thinking about, species that live closer towards the deepest ends of the ocean, they're less likely to have human
Mm.
hair and human-like features. They probably would look more animal-like, and probably the ones that live in more shallow areas or like dams and rivers would probably have more human-like features or some kind of a
Well, if
hair
you
or
think
something to
about
protect
it,
their skin. I don't know.
but
That's
in
just
all
like a theory I'm
honesty,
having.
what does the hair on our heads, like what purpose does that serve? It doesn't really.
Well, isn't it supposed to protect our heads from the sun or something like
Well,
that?
I don't know. I'm at two minds about it.
I mean, again, it's like I said, we don't know what kind of environment they're living in, so maybe there's something in the environment that they need to
Mm,
protect their skin from or something. I
that's
don't know.
true. So do you think it's more likely that these are actual, like a new species of animal that exists out there that could resemble a mermaid? Or are you saying that you think that there might be like angry spirits that maybe take the form of something like a mermaid?
No, I think they're just creatures that exist.
Fair enough.
Um, I do have
Hmm.
I do have one more question for you. You might not know the answer. Um, I was just wondering if in your research you found out something about why mermaids traditionally lure men out and drag them to the bottom of the ocean, because that's a very
Mm.
common thing in like mermaid stories from all around the world that they sing to entice men to come closer and then they drag them down. Did you perhaps find out the reason why that
Well,
happens or
in a lot of Western mermaid mythology, mermaids are just malicious spirits, you could say. They are just they kind of
mm,
some theorize that they actually eat humans. Um, but others just say that they're kind of
mm,
just out there to kill you. The whole thing is that the whole legend behind the mermaids is that you stay away because they would there's different types of mermaids. In my research, I found different types of mermaids. And the scary ones and the ones in most of mythology is like the sirens or I forgot the name of the other one, but
mm,
their whole thing was to kidnap sailors off ships, but they would pose as beautiful women and sing to them. And they would be so entranced by this beautiful creature that they'd jump into the water to be with her, and then they would drag them down to the depths. Of course, it was so deep under the water, no one really knows what would happen to them, but they would kill them. And um, some cases, people think that they would be eaten. Like, who knows? I don't, does that answer your question? Yeah. But
okay.
that is the story of the mermaids.
I still like mermaids. I mean,
I know,
it's probably because of
favorite Disney
Ariel, but
princess.
I like mermaids.
So, what story did you bring us?
Okay, so tonight I'm going to tell you about a creature that I had actually never heard of before doing research for our podcast.
Okay.
And it's a name that came up during my research for episodes 1 and 2. So I sort of took that as a sign that I have to cover the story in the next episode.
We believe in signs.
Of course. Uh, so the name of the creature that I will be telling you about is Impundulu, and the English translation is the lightning bird.
Oh yeah, I came across that in my research as well, actually. But I don't know anything about it, so I'm super keen.
Um, but I will be referring to it by the English name, the lightning bird, because I tend to get a little bit confused and tongue twisted the more I try to say Impundulu. So from now on, it will be lightning bird.
Cool.
Okay, so the lightning bird is a mythological creature of South African folklore of the Pondo, Zulu, and Xhosa tribes. There is an actual bird that people often associate with the lightning bird, and it's called Hammerkop. And people often believe that if you tamper with its nest, you will be struck by lightning. And most of the suspicion about this bird comes from the fact that it's a compulsive nest builder. So it's
Mm.
constantly adding more and more to its nest, basically every day.
What?
And that means that the nests can become quite massive and even weigh up to about 200 kilograms.
What?
Uh huh.
A
And
nest?
a nest, a bird's nest.
That's crazy.
And it's not, this bird is not even that big. It's classified as a medium-sized bird, so it's probably around the size of like a goose or something like that. A goose or a duck.
So hammerkop, that's hammerhead in Afrikaans.
Yes,
I'm just looking this
in
thing up.
English.
Yeah, I'm Googling. Oh my word, it is so cute. It does look like a hammer.
Yeah, the shape of its head is kind of like the head of a hammer,
It
so
is so
hammerhead.
cute. Oh my word. No, this thing isn't evil.
No one said it's evil yet, but it kind of is.
Oh, come on, Thunderbird?
Lightning
That's an
bird.
oh, my bad. So yes, s sorry I interrupted you. So Hammerkorp
That's right.
builds giant nests that are like 200 kilograms.
Yes, and I think there are some that probably grow even bigger and weigh even more. But because of the size and the density of these nests, they are often used by other animals as well, like owls, snakes, and lizards, which are all also creatures that are feared in many African cultures
Mm,
because they are either believed to have a connection to the spirit world or they are considered bad omens.
okay.
The name lightning bird comes from the belief that it has the ability to strike lightning through its wings and its talons when it descends to lay its eggs. Now, there are some differences in the description of the creature. Some say that lightning is its true form and that it only takes the shape of a bird when it appears to women so that it seems less threatening.
Okay.
But the majority of the accounts say that its true form is that of a bird, which is the size of a human, and it appears to women as a well-dressed and beautiful man in order to seduce them.
Oh.
So we can already see the difference between the Hammerkop and the lightning bird just by the
Mm,
size.
mm,
Um, so it's not to say that the Hammerkop is the actual lightning bird. There's a distinct difference between the two.
yeah.
It's just that there's an association with bad luck that comes from um, being in the presence of the Hammerkop.
Oh, really?
Yes, so some people believe that if it flies over your house, you will have bad luck and you will have to burn the house down, which
You have to burn the house down that the Hammerkop bird flies over.
yes, to avoid bad luck.
So to avoid bad luck, you need to
You have
burn
to
your
burn
house
your house
down.
down. Yes,
Okay, that
apparently.
is
That's what I read.
quite extreme.
It is.
Okay, so that makes a bit more sense to me as to why it would be associated with the lightning bird. If the
Yeah.
lightning bird is an omen and this bird's an omen, then at least there's a link there.
Yes, but that does seem to be the only link.
Oh.
Because I mean, like the physical description of the two
Mm,
birds are quite different. Even besides the size, even the color of the bird, you'll see in the pictures they're like a brown color. They're
yeah,
quite
it's so
plain
cute.
looking.
But very cute. I'm gonna post a
It
photo of
is
this on
very cute.
Instagram.
You
I'm
should.
posting this photo. Oh, cute.
But the description of the lightning bird in its bird form is similar to the appearance and shape of the Hammerkop, but the color of the feathers are black and white, and it apparently has a red tail and beak.
Oh.
So the physical descriptions are quite different as
Mm.
well. So it has a very unique diet. It's quite similar to a vampire in the sense that it drinks the blood of the people it attacks
Okay.
and is also said to be immortal.
Hmm.
And when it's in its human form, it will feed off the blood of humans, and in its bird form, it will feed off of the blood of other animals.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, so it seems to have like a cannibalistic
Hmm.
uh, thing going on.
I was just about to say, yeah.
And they are believed to lay their nests underground at the point where lightning strikes, which is another difference between the lightning bird and the hammerkop, because the
Hmm.
hammerkop tend to build their nests in trees, even though they do grow quite large.
I have to see this thing's nest. Anyway,
I will
continue.
send you a picture.
Cool.
All right, so depending on the person, the eggs may be seen as a good or bad omen, and people may try to either collect or destroy the eggs. It's said that the eggs can be found where fairy circles grow that are encircled by mushrooms. And
What?
this shows you where the lightning has struck and where you need to start to dig to find these eggs.
See, this is just another reason why you should avoid fairy circles. I have heard so many myths and legends around these things. Fairy circles is never a good thing. If you see a ring of mushrooms, people run the other way.
Stay away.
Anyway, continue.
Okay, so the lightning bird is also often associated with witchcraft, and they are very well known to be a common familiar for most witches and witch doctors. And they are able to attack their enemies or to cause illness and bad luck to certain people.
Hmm.
The fat and the flesh of the lightning bird is believed to be an ingredient in many traditional medicines. The fat is harvested by digging up the bird in its underground cavity where you would find
Oh.
its nest. And the flesh can be used in an elixir to trace thieves and may even give the witch power to control the minds of people in their community.
Okay,
And when the
that's interesting and very useful, actually.
right?
But how exactly is the fat collected? You have to dig into the nest and collect it in the nest.
It seems like it, yes.
So do they
I'm
use
not
their
sure,
fat in the nest making process, according to legend?
not from what I could tell.
Or
It
am I just
it
misunderstanding?
sounds no, you're not. That's a bit of a confusing piece of information for me as well. Um, because the way it sounded when I was reading through my research was that it sounds kind of like a byproduct. Um,
Ew.
the lightning strikes, it's just I don't know there. Um,
Oh, ew.
but yeah, nobody ever mentioned if the bird has to be alive or dead when its fat or its flesh is collected.
Oh,
So that
ew.
part is very unclear. Uh, yeah. The procuring of these ingredients was glossed over heavily. But anyway, yeah, so the eggs are also used in many elixirs, and apparently, when you grind the eggs into a powder and mix it with other specific ingredients, it can create a concoction that will strike your enemies with lightning.
Oh, okay, well, there you go.
That's quite a unique, quite a
I was
unique ending to your
I was
enemy.
wondering when the light's gonna come in. I mean, besides
Yeah,
laying its eggs at the point where lightning strikes, I was like, come on, what's the point of having a lightning bird if you can't, you know, shoot your foes down with a little bit of lightning bolts, Zip, zip.
yeah, that's true. Uh, all right, so as I mentioned before, it is immortal,
Yeah, like a
and this
parrot.
immortality, basically, yes.
So,
Oh my word, lightning birds are just big parrots.
yeah,
Big,
because those things live forever.
it's true, it's true. Okay, so its immortality means that it will outlive its master. So it's often passed down from mother to daughter. And if it's not handed down to the next generation, or if she refuses to take it, then it will become an ownerless creature that causes chaos.
Um,
And it is often said that it will cause sickness and tuberculosis, or at least tuberculosis type symptoms. And it will attack by pressing you down on your chest, sucking your blood, and repeatedly kicking your chest and your back.
hmm,
Now, it sounds really kind of funny and
yeah.
unusual if you think of the fact that the attack is coming from a bird, but in most instances, the attack is done in its human form.
Oh, no, 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 no. I'm done now. Oh no.
Of course, since it's immortal, it cannot easily be killed. So gunshots, stabbing, poison, and drowning and such things won't actually do the trick. The
Mm.
lightning bird must apparently be burned if you want to kill it,
Oh.
which is quite a sad ending, but I mean, it kind of deserves it, in my opinion.
Well, if they are familiar, then they just do the bidding of their master, so they're not can't all be bad if you think about it.
I mean, it would do it either way, but I guess if it has a master, it's like less likely to happen unless it's told to. It would probably just exist in peace.
Mm, yeah, I guess. But going back to the fat thing, or the
Mhm.
fat in its nest, I was recently watching a video where they were discussing something called star jelly. I don't know if you've heard
Ew.
about it. Yeah, star jelly.
No, but it sounds interesting.
It's literally just like this slimy, gooey, opaque, white gunk that's just randomly like found like pretty much anywhere, but it's usually after a meteor shower.
So
So
it's fat, it's star fat,
they don't know what it
meteor
is.
fat.
It does not have any DNA. It doesn't have plant DNA and it doesn't have animal DNA. It's like just this random gunky white stuff. But I was wondering, since it happens with when there's a meteor shower, like what if it's actually lightning bird fat?
Ah, no, but it might be, but it is supposed to be a bird, so wouldn't it have some kind of an animal DNA?
Yeah,
Unless this thing is like some kind of a celestial being
or
or
crypt
something. I don't know.
or cryptid.
Yeah, yeah.
Because like
I think maybe
Wendigos, I doubt they have DNA.
they must have some kind. I don't know. I'm sure they do, right? It's cryptids have to be some kind of an
Thing.
animal thing.
Hmm. I don't know.
I don't know.
I've always seen them as something otherworldly.
Yeah,
So they don't really operate within our laws of the laws
that's
of our
true.
physical universe.
But yeah, that is the end of my lightning bird story.
It's interesting that we haven't heard that before. Like, I mean, we've all heard of like the Tokolosh and stuff, but the lightning bird's
Mm.
not something I came across until like I saw it mentioned in one of the stories I was researching for this episode. But I wonder if it's just not one of those tales that are sort of getting lost in time.
It might be because I did speak to some of my friends who would know about this kind of thing.
Mm,
And when I told them about the stuff that I had researched, they said that basically what I found was everything that they know as well.
mm,
And but one of my friends did say that when her grandmother got quite old and her mental state started to deteriorate, she would apparently laugh at people and point at them and call them impundulu.
mm,
So maybe it's just something that is more well known in the older generations.
could be.
But yeah, I mean, she also asked some of her friends as well, and they couldn't really give any new information either. So I guess it's probably
Mm,
something that's just not talked about as much as it used to be.
mm. And what area is this? Where does the stories originate from? Where does the lightning bird come from? Like, what region does it come from?
It's not mentioned that often. I did read that it's found in the Eastern Cape area,
Oh,
but besides that, there's no specific place that it's from.
that's so weird.
Um,
Because we're in the Eastern Cape. I
yeah,
didn't hear about this.
yeah.
But you know what? That is why we have a podcast, because now we have you guys, we have our listeners to inform us and educate us. Maybe we could do a follow-up episode. Well, okay, I'm going to put this invite out there for our international and local listeners. If you have got a story you want to share with us and that you'd like us to share on our podcast, please also email that to us. We're at Dead Curious Pod, that's Dead Curious POD for podcast at gmail.com. We really, really would love to hear from you. And yeah, Instagram. We are on Facebook, as I said before. And if you want to support us, we have just opened up a Patreon. And I think that's it from admin.
We will see you all next week. And don't forget to listen for the
Yes,
bloopers.
don't forget, we have bloopers. Bye.
Bye. Before you continue, I just have to cough quickly.
Me too.
Okay.
Workers that were installed there.
You can't drink gin tea on Monday mornings.
Well, I'm working from home. No one's gonna know. Oh crap! I have
Okay.
colleagues that listen to this. Never mind. I was just joking. So back to the mermaid.
Sorry. Sorry, I laughed too hard. Okay.
Are you quite finished?
I'm done, thanks. The dog must be, I mean, I can hear it
Oh,
through my headphones.
I thought it was you.
It must be really loud.
I thought you hurt
What,
yourself.
barking?
I
You
heard a.
thought I was barking.
Yeah.
I just started barking from pain.
Okay. Chat later. Love you. I still don't like the kids are dick thing, but I suppose I'm so old. Like Jessica says, oh, mom, you're so old. No, I'm old. Okay, love you. Bye.